Welcome back to the Arise Report. I'm Amory Thomas. As we established in our last episode, a majority of Altadena's residents did not receive official evacuation orders from the County of Los Angeles. As they fled the ongoing destruction and uncertainty in their unincorporated community, they encountered an aftermath with no clear structure for where to go, how to access support, or where to obtain reliable information. In the absence of well-managed emergency guidance or preparation, Altadena's residents relied heavily on informal and voluntary networks, including community and charitable organizations that provided support when they were needed the most. We asked residents who were present for the Eaton Fire how far they traveled when evacuating from Altadena before they stopped for at least 15 minutes to take a break and regain their bearings. About 45% traveled less than 6 miles from their homes, 24.2% traveled between 6 and 13 miles, 21.7% traveled between 13 and 30 miles, and a further 8.7% traveled more than 30 miles from their homes before stopping. This pattern becomes clear when we look at where residents spent their first full night after evacuation. For their first full night after evacuation, about 88.5% of Altadena residents remain within the jurisdiction of Los Angeles County, with 3.4% traveling to Orange County, about 5% to the Inland Empire counties of San Bernardino and Riverside, and about 1.4% to Ventura. Almost 2% traveled to other California counties. To better understand distribution within Los Angeles County, we focus on the San Gabriel Valley and its surrounding cities. Only about 1% of Altadena's population present for the fire, or approximately 400 residents, decided to continue to remain in their homes for the first full night under incomplete evacuation orders. Although destinations vary widely across the valley and its surrounding cities, including Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, and other communities, no single location served as a central regrouping or destination point for evacuees. Notably, this is visible in the 21.3%, or more than 8,300 residents under evacuation from Altadena, who elected to spend their first night in the city of Los Angeles, still under a state of crisis and high demand for city resident assistance due to the ongoing Palisades and Sunset fires. This further reflects the consistent lack of clearly defined or widely communicated destination guidance for Altadenans during their evacuation from the Eaton Fire. A majority of Altadenans turned to friends or family in determining where to go, with 63.8% receiving personal assistance for their temporary accommodations and an additional 23% moving into hotels or motels on night one. 4.8% turned to private rentals, such as Airbnb. A further 3.2% spent their first night unhoused in their own vehicles, with only 2.1% utilizing space at public shelters. Even after evacuation, access to stable assistance was not immediate for many residents. A significant share required multiple days to secure basic support, reflecting the absence of clearly defined post-evacuation pathways. There were a variety of experiences in how long it took Altadenans to receive temporary assistance, such as shelter, clothing, hot meals, or related aid. 39.3% were able to locate it in just under a day from evacuation. 17.7% located it in 1 to 2 days. 18.2% took 3 or more days, while almost 25% did not seek such assistance. For many of Altadena's Black and Hispanic or Latinx residents, higher proportions of both communities had segments that required more time to connect with what they needed, with 26.7% of Hispanic or Latinx residents finding assistance only after 3 or more days from evacuation, and 30.2% of Black residents also finding assistance only after 3 or more days from evacuation. Here's what some Altadenans had to say about finding shelter after evacuation from the Eaton Fire.
I can't believe that the text we got from the government to evacuate said go to their website to find our evacuation center. When I went, it only gave information on the Palisades Evacuation Center.
We had no idea where to go, and we moved locations several times.
Setup of emergency shelters needs to happen sooner. I wanted to evacuate earlier than I did, but struggled to figure out where to go and especially what to do with my cats. The shelters were not announced until the next day, but I needed somewhere to go that night.
This whole thing was handled badly. The evacuation center was even worse. So I have lived through many fires and severe wind events up here since 1976. None were as bad as this. Everyone in our family is suffering from PTSD.
We had nowhere to go with our pets that we could stay together. Police sent us to the Rose Bowl parking lot.
In the absence of shared destinations for Altadena residents, access to reliable information became critical. Residents relied on a fragmented mix of sources with limited centralized guidance. We asked Altadena residents which sources of information they used after evacuation while the fire was still out of control, such as LA County Fire Department progress, evacuation zone status, where to seek aid, and the status of their homes. 70.4% of residents relied on Facebook groups, 65.2% used the Genesis Protect or Watch Duty apps, 50.2% relied on friends and family, 41.9% watched television news, and nearly 40% turned to internet news sites. Additionally, 13.1% used traditional radio news to stay up to date, 12.9% relied on information from county public emergency centers, 8% reported attending meetings with community members, and 4.2% reported other sources of information. We asked Altadena residents to rate how satisfied they were with the amount of information provided by the government, namely Los Angeles County and the state of California, during the Eaton Fire on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 indicated not satisfied at all, and 10 indicated complete satisfaction. With a mean satisfaction of 3.8 out of 10, more than 55.9% of Altadenans indicated significant levels of dissatisfaction with the information the government provided during the Eaton Fire after the evacuation. Resident mean satisfaction was slightly higher in East Altadena at 4.2 out of 10, and lower in West Altadena at 3.6 out of 10. Here's what some Altadenans chose to share about the quality and availability of information provided by the government during the Eaton Fire, but after evacuation.
When I returned home, we still had power, but there was no internet or cell service. As a result, I had no way to access the internet, watch television, or get news updates. I couldn't make phone calls, send texts, or browse online because my cell service was also down. We were completely isolated and could only get updates via the radio.
The days following the fire were very confusing, particularly with the blockades and conflicting information about the utilities, especially the gas company.
Mobilize outside resources in advance to be ready, not days after.
Help people trying to find out the status of their property.
It is crazy how the fire seemed to know where Pasadena starts. Also in the aftermath, Pasadena was loud about health recommendations for its populace, where often there was no information for Altadena.
We asked all of Altadena's residents whether they're present for the Eaton Fire or not, whether or not they sought immediate nonprofit or charitable assistance in the wake of the fire. 64.3% of Altadena residents sought early assistance before May 2025, with less than half of elders aged 65 or over seeking early assistance. 68.1% of Black residents sought early assistance, 70.4% of Hispanic or Latinx residents sought early assistance, 78.3% of Asian or Asian American residents sought early assistance, 76% of Altadena residents who rented their homes sought early assistance, and 76.3% of Altadena homeowners with destroyed homes sought early assistance. Slightly less than half of East Altadenans sought immediate financial assistance, with 71.1% of West Altadenans seeking early financial assistance and aid. Altadenans reported receiving aid from a wide range of nonprofit and charitable organizations in the wake of the Eaton Fire for financial aid or assistance, with more than half of the population indicating direct aid was received from the American Red Cross. Organizations with more than 1% mentions in the survey are listed here, but the key thing that viewers should keep in mind is for every 1% of mentions here, these organizations likely serve hundreds of Altadenans. Other than those displayed here, many other organizations were mentioned by Altadena respondents. We asked residents to rate their satisfaction with the level of support that they received from charitable organizations for their immediate needs after evacuation. With a mean satisfaction of 7.6 out of 10, more than 90.5% of Altadenans indicated highly significant levels of satisfaction with charity. This suggests that informal and voluntary systems played a critical role in meeting immediate needs following evacuation. In designing our research, many residents who took part in our pilot survey asked us to capture more information about crowdfunding efforts. 35.6% of residents engaged in such an effort on platforms like GoFundMe, with 44% of residents aged 25 to 54, 41.3% of Black Altadena residents, 44.7% of Hispanic or Latinx residents, 41.8% of residents who had rented their homes, and the highest at 55.4% of Altadenans whose homes had been destroyed. Residents in East Altadena commenced fewer crowdfunding campaigns at 23.3% compared to West Altadena at 41.4%. By the time we had completed our survey fieldwork in May 2025, about 70% of the early Altadena resident crowdfunding efforts were successful. About 27% were still in progress, and only about 4% were unsuccessful. In the immediate aftermath of evacuation, Altadena residents dispersed across Southern California without any clear or coordinated destinations. As the Eaton Fire continued to burn for the next 24 days, inconsistent access to reliable information and fragmented guidance reinforced these conditions. Friends and family became a primary source of support for many Altadena residents following evacuation. Informal sources such as Facebook groups, they became more relied upon than traditional broadcast news outlets. People, nonprofits, business owners, and communities across Southern California stepped into roles that were not filled by our formal systems. These patterns indicate that a post-evacuation movement was not structured through a system of emergency response or support, but occurred instead through individual decisions left to Altadenans under conditions of extreme pressure and uncertainty. Management of those systems rests with the County of Los Angeles. Next episode, we will look at the damage left behind by the Eaton Fire in Altadena in ways that you may not have seen it ever portrayed before. Until next time.